Welcome back to part 2, Murder of the Black Donnellys. If you missed part 1, the early years, I recommend you watch it before continuing with this story. My name is Angie, and I'll be your host on this episode of Mean Streets Canada. Today we focus on the Donnelly family of Biddulph Township, with the main focus on the years of operating a stage line in the area. This story includes arson, sabotage, and murder. Who would have thought a stage line business was such a cutthroat industry? So before we get started, please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on part 3, the massacre. We left off last time in 1871, where a few of the Donnelly boys began to work for a stage line company owned by McPhee and Keefe. We will pick up the story here. The McPhee stage line was not the only stage line in the area, with the competing stage line being managed by John Hawkshaw. The battle between the two companies raged for only 2 years, when McPhee folds and William Donnelly decides to open his own stage line company in 1873. Opening for business on May 24th of 1873, William Donnelly and the other brothers partook in a new business venture. The Donnelly Stagecoach Line was a huge success, operating a line of stages which ran between London and Lucan and on to Exeter. Operated by William and his brothers Michael, John, and Thomas, their services were comparable to the official mail stage, which had been in business since 1838. Feeling the pressure of competition, the Hawkshaw stage line sold its stage to Patrick Flanagan in October of 1873. Flannigan, a husky Irishman, was no friend to the Donnellys and was determined to drive them out of business. This ignited the feud for what would soon become the Stagecoach Wars. The Donnelly brothers continued with their stage line through all the trouble and sabotage. In fact, it became a real family affair, with brothers Michael, Robert, and Thomas also driving stages. Soon they joined forces with the Calder stage line. After reports of sabotage began to emerge, stories of stages being burned and horses harmed or even killed. Fortunately, at the time, these were just stories. This battle between the Donnelly stagecoach and the Flannigan and Crawley stage became known as the Stagecoach Feud. When the violence escalated, stages were smashed or burned, horses were beaten or killed, and entire stables were burned to the ground. The violence that erupted as a result of the Stagecoach Feud was mostly blamed on the Donnellys. Somehow, even the crimes acted against them were their doing, with rumors and allegations adding to the family's bad reputation. From that time on, almost every crime committed was blamed on this family. Although they were charged with numerous crimes, very few convictions were ever secured against them. All the while, William continued to operate the stage line, and in 1873 he asked Margaret Thompson to marry him. Her father, William Thompson, not a huge fan of the Donnellys, sends her away so she cannot marry William. Soon after she was gone, a series of letters arrived from Margaret, begging William to come and get her. William's worried for his love. He gathers his friends to search the Thompson household and the homes of the neighbors Ellen Fogarty and William Thompson Jr., looking for Margaret. However, unable to locate her, the group was charged with trespassing, but again, this was acquitted. By 1874, the Donnelly brothers' stage line was doing well, so well in fact that Patrick Flanagan decided he could provide the same service or better, and opened a rival stage line. Soon, more problems began to crop up for the Donnellys. Michael, James Jr., and Robert were ejected from Lot 26, Concession 11. Joseph Caswell is granted the land, but once he takes ownership, there are fires and several of his animals die. Accusations fly again that the Donnellys have something to do with it, but no charges are laid. Within the township of Biddulph, the Donnellys' reputation began to supersede them. Although not yet convicted of any crimes, they were believed to be responsible for every crime. William, desperate to escape the reputation and move on and establish some sort of life of his own, had found a new love. Far removed from Margaret, William marries Nora Kennedy in 1875. The marriage angers most of the Kennedy family, especially Roddy, her brother-in-law, and John Kennedy, her brother. That same year, James Donnelly Jr. is charged with stealing from and assaulting Thomas Gibb, a fruit vendor. He is convicted of the assault charge, but not the theft charge. Then, one of Flannigan's stages is destroyed by fire. The driver, William Brooks, is killed when a wheel falls off. Sabotage is suspected. Robert McLeod, who works for Flannigan, cuts off the Donnelly Stagecoach, causing passengers to fall out of the carriage. Donnelly charges him and receives damages. In turn, Louisa and Martha Lindsay charge the Donnellys for dumping them out of the stage, and the Donnellys are forced to repay the damages. When Joseph Berryhill challenges James Keefe and the Donnellys to a fight, Keefe and the Donnellys are charged with assault, and Thomas Donnelly is convicted. When James Curry claims that Keefe, James Jr., and Thomas Donnelly attacked and robbed him, nothing comes of this charge. Finally, Flannigan and Crowley's stables are burned. Later that year, Flannigan is beaten and another of his stages is burned. The Donnellys fight with Roddy Kennedy, who blames the Donnellys for the fire. The Donnellys are acquitted, and Kennedy is charged with perjury. 1875 was one hell of a year. The following year was not much better. In 1876, it began with Peter McCallum having an altercation with the Donnellys. Michael, at this time, is convicted of threatening the life of McKellar. William, in turn, then charges McKellar with threatening him. Roddy Kennedy is sent to arrest Robert, and another fight ensues. McKellar charges William with perjury. Fuel is again thrown on the fire when Hugh McKinnon, a private detective, arrives in Lucan. He goes to work with constables John Bodden, John Corsi, and John Reed. The constables go to Thomas Ryder's wedding to arrest the Donnellys for a variety of alleged crimes. A riot ensues and shots are fired. Donnellys escape, and a group of townspeople go in search of them. Many come forward to pursue old charges against the Donnellys. Constable Bodden captures Michael Donnelly and holds him in Lucan Hotel, but Michael manages to escape. Most of the charges against the Donnellys with regards to McKellar, Kennedy, and Estelle lead to no convictions. However, William and John Donnelly are convicted of assault with Constable Bodden. William would not serve time as he was discharged from prison due to illness. The situation continues to escalate in 1877. The violence in Lucan had increased. The Donnelly stables and stages are burned, as is Michael Donnelly's home. Soon after, James Jr. dies of a reported illness. Rumors circulate he may have been shot, but there is no actual proof of this. During all this time, the creation of the London, Huron, and Bruce Railway was underway, and the stage line business was in jeopardy. In 1878, the stage line would close, and the trains would now take passengers where they needed to go. However, the problem for the Donnellys persisted. When James Carroll charged them with assault, and he then charged Joanna Donnelly with using abusive language, the Donnellys accused him of threatening to shoot them. Constable Samuel Everett claims someone fired shots at him. He says the guilty party was clearly Robert Donnelly, and Robert is sentenced to 2 years in the Kingston Penitentiary. This would later be found to be untrue, when the constable would then recant his statement and say that he was not sure it was actually Robert who shot him. This concludes our part 2 of the Donnelly family. Please join me next time for the final episode of The Murder of the Black Donnellys, Part 3, The Massacre. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I ask that you subscribe if you would like to see more. Thanks again. I look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day.